The sky tore apart in fire. Maya Chen's world ended in a scream of metal as the transport ship shuddered and fell through the alien atmosphere. She clutched the harness straps with tiny hands, eyes wide, as her mother tried to shield her. Sirens wailed, oxygen masks dropped, and then, impact. Silence. When Maya woke, her ears rang. The world smelled of smoke and burning plastic. A broken beam pinned her seat, but somehow she wriggled free. She called for her parents, voice hoarse, but the only answer was the crackle of flames. She stumbled out of the shattered hull into a landscape like nothing she had ever seen. 2 suns burning in opposite skies, their light painting the rocks in shifting blue and gold. Her knees buckled. Hunger gnawed. Fear pressed down like a weight. She was just 8 years old, alone on a planet that had no name in her language. That night, when the larger sun sank and shadows stretched long, she heard it, the sound of glass bells chiming in the wind. Shapes moved at the edge of her vision, glowing faintly, like lanterns made of crystal. She froze. They came closer, beings of living stone and light, translucent as quartz but pulsing with color. They surrounded her gently, not trapping but sheltering. One bent low, humming deep notes that vibrated in her bones. Another laid a shimmering hand on her scraped arm, and the bleeding slowed. Maya, trembling, whispered the only word she could, "Please." And the crystals answered, not in her tongue, but in kindness. They shielded her from the cold wind. They placed strange fruits in her hands, glowing faintly, sweet against her cracked lips. That night she slept not in terror, but in the warm glow of alien guardians who asked nothing in return. Under 2 suns, a child had been saved. The galaxy would never be the same. The next morning, Maya awoke to light, not the harsh glare of the twin suns, but a soft glow surrounding her like the reflection of dawn through stained glass. She blinked, half believing she was still dreaming. The crystalline beings, 5 of them, stood in a gentle circle around her. They were machines. They weren't monsters. Their surfaces caught the sun's rays and scattered them into rainbows across the rocks. They hummed low tones, a sound like wind through 1,000 flutes. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Maya sat up slowly. Who are you?" Her voice was a whisper. One leaned closer, tall and spire-shaped, colors shifting from pale green to deep violet. It pressed a hand, if it could be called that, against its own chest. The hum deepened, vibrating in a rhythm. Then it touched the ground near her and repeated the sound. Maya realized with a child's instinct they were trying to speak. She placed her small hand on her chest. "Maya." She tapped the ground with her other hand. "Maya." The crystal figure pulsed brighter, then answered with its own chime. Not a word, but a note. Something like joy flickered across her exhausted heart. The beings moved with patience, never rushing. They gathered fruits from low shrubs, cracked open pods of clear water, and set them before her. She ate hungrily, sticky juice dripping down her chin. The smallest being, barely taller than she was, emitted a series of high, playful tones, like laughter. Without meaning to, Maya giggled back. For the first time since the crash, she didn't feel alone. As the day passed, the crystal beings stayed near. When shadows lengthened, they formed a protective circle again, their glow warming her like a campfire. Maya lay on the sand, staring at their shimmering forms, listening to the hum that seemed to echo in her very bones. "Thank you," she whispered, though she doubted they understood. One crystal pulsed once, steady and bright. It wasn't human speech, but it was enough. For a child lost beneath alien suns, a fragile bond had been born. Days blurred together under the twin suns. Maya no longer counted them. Instead, she measured time by the rhythm of light and sound. The crystalline beings, she thought of them now as her guardians, remained by her side. Each morning, they brought food, glowing fruit, brittle seeds that tasted of honey, and clear drops of water sealed in crystal shells. Each evening, they formed their circle around her, glowing softly against the darkness, keeping the chill winds at bay. Yet what bound Maya most was not their protection, but their song. They hummed to one another constantly, a chorus of tones that shimmered in the air. It wasn't random. She could tell by the way one note answered another, how rhythms rose and fell like conversation. When she cried, the guardian's hum lowered, deep and steady, until her sobs quieted. When she laughed, the smaller one answered in bright, quick chimes. One afternoon, determined, Maya picked up a shard of crystal from the sand. She struck it gently against another rock. Ping! The sound was high, sharp, imperfect. The guardians turned toward her. Maya smiled nervously and tapped again. Ping, ping. The smallest guardian responded instantly, releasing 2 bright notes of its own. Her heart leapt. Soon she was tapping little rhythms, experimenting, giggling when the guardians answered with harmonies that filled the canyon. She clapped her hands in delight, and the crystals pulsed brighter, as if laughing with her. For the first time since the crash, Maya didn't feel like prey. She felt seen. That night, curled beneath the protective arc of their glowing forms, she whispered a new word. Friends. The guardians responded not with words, but with a unified chord, deep and resonant, that vibrated in her chest until she smiled through her tears. A fragile bond had been forged, born not of language, but of kindness. The sky changed first. For days, Maya had only seen the endless sweep of stars above the twin suns. But now, a new light cut across the heavens, a streak of silver fire. She gasped, pointing upward. The guardians stirred, their colors shifting uneasily as the streak grew larger, then multiplied. Ships. Human ships. Her heart hammered in her chest. They came for me. A deep rumble shook the ground as the rescue craft descended through clouds of dust. But the guardians did not retreat. Instead, they drew closer around Maya, their glowing forms forming a living shield. Maya clutched the smallest one's crystal arm. It's okay. They're here to help. But the guardians could not know that. To them, the sky was splitting open with thunder, metal birds screaming toward the ground. They hummed a chorus of warning notes, their colors flashing like a storm. The rescue shuttle touched down in a roar of engines. Figures in bright suits spilled out, carrying scanners and weapons. One shouted over the noise. Life signs confirmed. A child human. Maya staggered forward, her voice breaking. Here. I'm here. Her rescuers froze as the glowing beings surrounded her protectively. Guns half raised, they hesitated. One wrong move, and fear would turn to bloodshed. Then slowly, the tallest guardian pulsed with a steady blue light. It stepped aside, revealing Maya safe within their circle. The hum deepened, not hostile, but offering. The humans lowered their weapons. A medic sprinted forward, scanning Maya with shaking hands. It's her. Maya-chun. Alive. Tears blurred Maya's vision as arms wrapped around her. We thought we lost you. But she twisted in their embrace, pointing back. They saved me. Don't hurt them. Promise me. Her words echoed across the landing site. Soldiers, medics, officers, all turned their eyes toward the crystalline figures glowing softly under 2 suns. And in that moment, the fate of an entire species shifted. By the time Maya's shuttle left Kepler 442c, cameras were already watching. The rescue team's feeds had been transmitted back to the fleet, and from there, to Earth and every settled colony. Billions saw the same images. An 8-year-old girl, bruised but alive, standing in the protective glow of crystalline giants. The moment burned itself into human memory. On Luna's broadcast towers, anchors wept openly as they described the angels of crystal. On Titan, miners paused work to replay the footage again and again. On Mars, schoolchildren drew pictures of glowing guardians standing over a little girl beneath 2 suns. Her name became a rallying cry. Maya-chun, the child of 2 suns. The story spread faster than any official statement. Families whispered it at dinner. Musicians turned it into songs. Artists filled canvases with the light of alien crystals, sheltering a human child. For the first time in generations, humanity spoke not of conquest or profit, but of gratitude. And with gratitude came outrage. Mining guilds had long sought Kepler's crystalline riches. Now they found their contracts torn apart in public forums. You would carve apart the very beings who sheltered a child, senators demanded. Are we so lost we cannot honor kindness when it is given freely? Protests erupted across Earth's megacities. Colonists on the frontier swore oaths. No human would ever lift a hand against the Vorthac, not while they lived. In her hospital bed, Maya barely understood the storm her survival had ignited. She only knew she was safe, and that she missed the gentle hum of her crystal friends. She held a shard one guardian had left with her, smooth, glowing faintly, and whispered into it each night, as if it could still hear. Across the stars, billions whispered with her. The galaxy was listening. Months after Maya's rescue, the first civilian ships landed on Kepler 442c. They did not come with mining drills or weapons. Instead, their cargo bays were filled with gifts. On Earth, committees of artists, musicians, and teachers had asked themselves, what do we offer to those who gave without asking? Their answer was simple. We bring what makes us human. The first group to step onto the crystalline plains carried no rifles, only instruments. A violinist from Vienna played a trembling hymn beneath the twin suns, his notes carrying across the canyon. The Vorthac emerged cautiously, glowing like lanterns at dusk. When the last note faded, one of them answered, not with words, but with a low, harmonic pulse that seemed to echo the music. Others came forward with paintings, images of Maya smiling, wrapped in crystal light. One artist knelt, pressing her canvas to the ground, as if laying an offering at an altar. Children arrived next. Their small hands placed toys at the feet of the crystal giants, carved wooden animals, model rockets, stuffed bears. The Vorthac bent low, humming softly, their glow reflecting in the wide eyes of the children. It was not trade. It was not negotiation. It was gratitude. The humans sat in circles, reading stories aloud, projecting holograms of Earth's forests and oceans. The Vorthac responded with patterns of light and sound, showing fractal images within their bodies, memories, perhaps, though no one yet understood. No treaties were signed. No profits were calculated. But in the canyon of Kepler 442c, something far greater happened. Two species recognized each other not as resources, not as rivals, but as companions in a vast and often merciless galaxy. Later, historians would mark this day as the beginning of the pilgrimage era. But to those who were there, it was simply the day humanity learned to kneel in thanks before the ones who had saved a child. The Galactic Council Chamber was a cathedral of light, towering walls of crystal, banners of 100 species swaying in artificial wind. At the center stood Admiral Sarah Okafor, Earth's representative, the story of Maya-Chen and the Vorthac playing on massive holoscreens. Gasps rippled through the chamber as images showed the crystal beings, forming a protective circle around the wounded child. To humans, it was proof of something sacred. To others, it was little more than an inconvenience. The Trade Consortium delegate rose first, scales clattering like coins. "These are not a people," he hissed. "They are resources. The crystals beneath their soil can power starfleets for centuries. And you dare call them equals because they fed one child?" Murmurs of agreement spread through the predator factions, the hegemony, the Fexery, the insectoid Vakran. For them, survival was conquest, and kindness was weakness. Admiral Okafor's voice was steady. "They saved a human life when they had every reason to turn away. We remember our debts. If that makes us strange in your eyes, so be it. But hear this. Earth does not abandon those who protect our children." The chamber erupted in noise. Some cheered. Others shouted accusations of arrogance. One reptilian ambassador slammed his clawed fist on the table. "You would risk war over a primitive species. You would drag the entire galaxy into conflict over sentiment." Okafor met his burning eyes, without flinching. "We would risk war for something far rarer than crystals or territory. We would risk war for honor." Silence fell, heavy and dangerous. In that pause, the galaxy realized what had just happened. Humanity had drawn a line no one expected. To some, it was madness. To others, it was the first spark of hope they had ever seen in galactic politics. The Council was no longer united. A fracture had opened, and through it, war might soon pour. Deep within the war forges of the hegemony, the air reeked of oil and blood. A great table of iron stretched across the chamber, its surface alive with holograms of human fleets and Vorthac crystal fields. Around it sat the predators of a dozen worlds, wolf-faced warlords, insect-eyed generals, reptilian admirals with teeth like daggers. War Marshal Kravex slammed his clawed fist down. Sparks shot across the table. Humans think they can guard the galaxy with sentiment. One child cries, and suddenly they declare a whole species untouchable. This cannot stand. General Vakran's mandibles clicked in agreement. They shield the weak. They grow soft. Such softness spreads like a disease. If others begin to trust humanity's promises, our dominion will crumble. A shark-like admiral bared her rows of teeth. The crystals of Kepler 442c are worth empires. If humans take them, their fleets will grow stronger than any of ours. No, we must strike swiftly, before their illusion of honor spreads further. Plans unfurled across the table. Attack vectors, siege weapons, strike fleets. The idea was simple and cruel. They would accuse the humans of hiding weapons on Vorthac soil, then launch a police action. A lie, yes, but a lie backed by guns and fire. What of their fleets? One younger commander asked nervously. They are disciplined. They outnumber us in that sector. Kravex's eyes glowed red in the dim light. Then we remind them of reality. They cannot protect everyone. They cannot be everywhere at once. When we burn the crystal world to ash, the galaxy will see their promises for what they are, empty words. Around the table, predator voices growled in approval. The decision was made. As the holograms flickered with war plans, the hegemony prepared to test the humans' resolve. What they did not know was that Earth had been waiting for exactly this moment. The hegemony's fleet fell upon Kepler 442c like a storm of iron. Dozens of warships emerged from warp, their black hulls blotting out the stars. Plasma cannons charged, missile bays hissed open, targeting the fragile planes where the Vorthac glowed in the night. War Marshal Kravex grinned, his voice echoing through the command bridge. Let the galaxy watch. Let them see how easily the human shield shatters. But before his order to fire left his lips, space itself fractured. Rippling arcs of blue light opened across the void, and out of them emerged steel titans, Earth's 7th and 9th fleets, their hulls gleaming with the banners of 100 colonies. Carriers, destroyers, battlecruisers. The stars filled with human firepower. Targets locked. Reported an Earth captain aboard the carrier Unity's Flame. Admiral, the trap is ready. Admiral Sarah Okafor stood tall, her voice calm, broadcast to all channels. A moment later, her image filled every screen, every comm feed, even Kravex's warship. This is not an ambush, she said. This is a warning. You came here to slaughter those who saved a human child. Know this, humanity does not forget kindness, and we do not forgive betrayal. On her signal, the fleet shifted formation with terrifying precision. Hundreds of human ships locked weapons onto the invaders. Defense drones unfolded in glowing webs, encasing the Vorthac world in an impenetrable shield. Kravex roared, "Fire! Break their line!" But when the hegemony unleashed its barrage, the plasma burst struck empty space. Human ships were already gone, sliding effortlessly through coordinated warp jumps, reappearing in perfect firing arcs. Their counterattack lit the void, plasma beams carving enemy hulls, railguns cracking armor. Within minutes, half the hegemony's vanguard burned. The survivors staggered, their formation broken. For the first time in centuries, predators tasted fear. Admiral Okafor's final words thundered through the battlefield. You thought us soft. You thought us naive. But today you learn, when humanity gives its word, we keep it. To the last breath. And the trap slammed shut. The council chamber was silent when Admiral Sarah Okafor strode to the center podium. The battle over Kepler 442c was still fresh in every delegate's mind. Streams of fire across the void, the sudden collapse of the hegemony's vanguard, and humanity's fleet standing unbroken around the crystal world. Holofeeds replayed the final moment. Earth's carriers shifting into an unshakable wall of steel and light, their weapons glowing but aimed outward, not inward. A shield, not a sword. Okafor's voice carried with calm certainty. Let it be known to this council, and to every world beyond, the Vorthac are under the protection of humanity. They are not resources. They are not prey. They are guardians, and now they are our kin. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted in outrage, demanding trade rights and reparations. Others whispered with awe, their voices trembling at the audacity of such a claim. The Vorthac delegate hissed, mandibles clacking furiously. You presume to declare guardianship over an entire species? You would place all of us under your moral chains. Okafor did not flinch. No, we bind only ourselves. But understand this. Any who raise a weapon against the Vorthac will face humanity's fleets, humanity's soldiers, and humanity's resolve. Not because they asked us, not because they paid us, but because they sheltered one child when no one else would. The holoscreen shifted, showing Maya Chen's face, fragile, alive, smiling faintly as crystalline light glowed around her. Billions had already seen the image, but here, in the council chamber, it struck like a hammer. Whispers spread. They shielded one human child, and so Earth shields them all. The declaration rippled outward, carried by news feeds, songs, and whispers across the stars. On distant colonies, people cheered. On Earth, crowds filled the streets, chanting Maya's name. For the first time in centuries, humanity was not feared for conquest, but revered for protection. The shield of Earth had been raised, and no one, not even the hegemony, would ever look at them the same way again. Centuries later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Empires rose and crumbled. Star maps redrew themselves in fire and ash. Yet through all the shifting tides of history, one truth remained untouched. The vow humanity had spoken for the Vorthac. On Kepler 442c, the plains were no longer empty. Great cities of light stood side by side with crystalline towers, human and Vorthac living as neighbors, guardians, and kin. Pilgrims still came from across the stars, not to conquer, not to trade, but to kneel in gratitude where the bond had begun. At the heart of the first city stood a monument. A little girl, carved in translucent crystal, stood with her small hand resting on the faceted arm of a towering guardian. Above them, etched in steel, was the oath spoken centuries ago. They shielded one human child. So Earth shields them all. Children played around the statue, laughing as their echoes blended with the soft hum of Vorthac voices. Soldiers patrolled the skies, not as conquerors, but as keepers of peace. And through it all, the story of Maya Chun was told and retold, sometimes in songs, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in glowing holograms projected beneath twin suns. No one remembered the names of the hegemony warlords who had sought to break the bond. Their empires were dust, but the tale of a child saved and a promise kept lived on. Some said that when the sun set just right, the monument glowed faintly, as though the guardians themselves still stood watch. Others believed the shard Maya carried had never gone dark, passed down through her family as a relic of the vow. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. The galaxy no longer doubted humanity's word, for in every corner of known space, from the frozen domes of Europa to the fire mines of Tau Ceti, a single phrase endured. A child was shielded, a species was saved, and so the guard is eternal. Generations after Maya Chen's time, the galaxy itself seemed different. Where once fear and predation ruled, now alliances spoke of guardianship, of protection, of promises honored across the void. The story of the child of two suns had grown beyond even humanity's borders. On distant worlds where humans rarely traveled, alien children still carved little figurines of crystal guardians and small human girls. Entire species who once mistrusted Earth now taught their young. Strength is not in teeth or claws, but in keeping your word. The hegemony was gone, its ruins swallowed by time. But its defeat had not been humanity's greatest victory. Their greatest triumph was subtler, a shift in how the galaxy understood itself. That in the cold dark, where survival once meant devouring the weak, a different path was possible. On the Vorthac homeworld, twin suns rose over a new temple city. Inside its grand atrium stood a circle of statues, human, Vorthac, and even other species who had joined the vow. At the center, lit by crystal light, was an inscription etched in every known tongue. They shielded one child, so we shield each other. Travelers wept when they saw it. Soldiers laid down arms there and swore new oaths. Pilgrims brought not only gifts, but also their children, so the next generation could touch the crystal walls and remember the promise. And so the legend became inheritance, not of blood, not of empire, but of spirit. In hidden corners of the galaxy, storytellers would end their tales with the same words. A long time ago, when hope was fragile, one child was saved. From that moment, everything changed. The stars continued to burn, civilizations continued to rise and fall, but the promise endured, carried in song, in stone, and in the quiet hum of crystal voices. Not as myth, not as history, but as the eternal inheritance of stars. The stars above Kepler, 442c, shimmered like scattered diamonds. In the great temple city, a circle of children gathered around an elder storyteller. The hall was vast, its walls alive with the glow of Vorthac crystals, each pulse echoing softly in harmony. The elder was human, her hair silver, her eyes still bright with memory. In her hand she held a small shard, glowing faintly, passed down through uncounted generations. The children leaned closer, silent, as she began. Long ago, when the galaxy was cruel, and the strong devoured the weak, a single human child was lost beneath two suns. She should have perished, but she did not. For there were those who shielded her, not because they sought reward, not because they sought power, but because kindness lived in their hearts. The children gasped softly. They had heard the story before, but it never grew old. Some of them were Vorthac, their crystal bodies glowing in rhythm with her words. Some were human. Others belonged to species, once counted among predators, now kin in the vow. And so humanity made a promise, the elder continued. A vow that no hand would rise against those who had sheltered us. A vow that grew until it was not only humanity's, but the galaxy's. She pressed the shard into the hands of the nearest child, a little Vorthac whose body flickered with pale blue light. And this is how promises live, not in stone, not in monuments, but in you. Each of you carries the shield, so long as you remember. The hall filled with a gentle hum as the Vorthac children answered, their resonance blending with the heartbeat of the crowd. For a moment, it seemed as if the whole galaxy was singing with them. Far above, the twin sun set, casting the world in gold and violet light. The elder's final words echoed in the glow. Stories end, but promises do not. And so long as one child remembers, the guard endures.